And there we have a handful of songs by Mr. Pete Seeger. And Pete should be on the line there. Are you there, Pete?
I am here.
Hey, welcome, Pete. How are you today?
Well, I'm losing my memory, and I've lost my voice.
Oh.
I was listening to that record and said, could I once sing like that? Could I play the banjo like that? I'll be 88 in May.
God bless you. Happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
It hasn't been that long since I've seen you, and you sounded great the last time I saw you. So,
well, what I do these days, if I am asked to sing, is I get the crowd singing. I've become better at it, and I can get this crowd singing in harmony, whether it's an old song or a new song.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. They have fun with that, huh?
Yeah. I keep quoting what John Philip Sousa, the great band leader, said in 1910, almost 100 years ago. He said, what will happen to the American voice now the phonograph has been invented? And it's true, people don't sing like they used to.
Right.
Families used to sing sitting around the dinner table. Men sang in bars.
That's right.
Women sang lullabies to their children. Now they're saying, oh, put the kid in front of the tube, he'll fall asleep.
That's right. It's a lost art, a lost family tradition.
On the other hand, one never can tell. I think if there's still a human race here in 100 years, we're going to be learning a lot of good old skills. Already, people are helping out like they didn't or wouldn't have 50 years ago. Look at what's going on in New Orleans.
Yes, sir.
With thousands of people going down there with their own money and their own tools and helping people in New Orleans rebuild their houses.
Yes, sir.
The government's not doing it. Ordinary people are.
I agree, and I honestly I think that you and what you stand for and the Guthrie family stands for is a large part of that, carrying on that tradition of the old family ways.
Well, let me tell you who's listening. You tell me who's listening to this program.
Who's listening?
Yes,
all sorts of people are listening. Largely folk fans. Largely folk music fans, but there's a lot of rock and roll fans as well. Well.
Yes. What can I tell you don't know?
Well, first I want to I want to thank you for joining me, and I would like to ask you how are your family?
Well, my wife and I will celebrate our 65th, I think it is, 65th wedding anniversary this summer.
Wow! Happy anniversary to the two of you.
Thank you. And we have grandchildren, no great-grandchildren yet, but about 7 wonderful grandchildren.
Wonderful. And I'm sure that the Seeger tradition, the sing-along tradition, lives strong in the family.
Well, we have a large family. My father had 7 children.
Wow.
And the best musician in the family is my younger half-brother, Mike. He's not just a fiddler and mandolin player, but a very deep student of a particular kind of folk music, which is known mainly in the southern mountains, Virginia, Kentucky, West Virginia, North Carolina, and he calls it old-time music.
Right. And your father was a student as well, wasn't he? A collector?
My father was a scholar.
A scholar.
He was a professor of musicology.
Right.
And fascinated with music all around the world. And he advised people, don't look for virtuosos. Look for a country where people make music themselves and don't just listen to it.
Well, there you go. We were when I invited you here on the program today. Speaking of the family history and music in the family history, I invited you because today is the show is surrounded around the Guthrie family legacy.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Woody.
Yeah,
he was not a good father. He kept leaving his first wife and going off hitchhiking someplace or riding freight trains, and she finally divorced him. Then, however, he met this extraordinary dancer in New York. She danced with Martha Graham, and they hitched up and had some more kids. He had tragedy after tragedy in his life. His sister died in a fire. His mother went to a mental hospital and died. And his one of his favorite children, he wrote some of his best children's songs for her. Kathy was terribly burnt in a fire. She was left alone for just a few minutes. Oh. And when she came back, there'd been a short in the electrical thing, and the sofa caught on fire, and she tried to put it out, and she caught on fire. And it was probably the greatest single tragedy in Woody's life. But the songs he made up for her will last forever.
Right.
We all work together with the wiggle and the jiggle. We all work together with the giggle and the grin, with the wiggle and the jiggle and the google and the woogle and the jiggle and the jaggle and the giggle and the grin.
Yes, I had not had enough time to refresh myself. All this came together really quickly in the past week or so, and I glanced through the book. I can't remember the author's name. Woody Guthrie, A Life. You know the book that I'm speaking of?
I don't.
Oh, I've read many books over the years, and this is the one that's really that really grasped me, and it mentioned in detail, like you were talking about the various fires and the various wives and all the tragedies, and it was heartbreaking, but the music kept flowing. And I see that I was looking on a calendar last night, and it seems that we're just shy of I guess it would have been 70 years since your first meeting, Woody?
You're right. It was
wow.
It was in March of 1940, and there was a Broadway actor, Will Geer. Maybe some of you remember Grandpa Walton in the Walton Family television show. That was Will Geer. Well, he was a younger man back in 1940, but he had a starring role in a play on Broadway, and he persuaded the producer to let the theater be used for a benefit concert for the California agricultural workers. In those days, they were mostly Okies and Arkies and Texies and Kansies, and there was enough money to have. Oh, we had Burl Ives and Josh White and Lead Belly, and this little short fellow with curly hair hitchhiked in. Actually, he hitchhiked in February through Pennsylvania with his thumb stuck out into the February wind. And guess what song he was making up? As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. That was the song he was making up.
Goosebumps.
Well, Woody and I met there. He must have thought I was a strange kid. He said, that Seeger's the youngest man I ever knew. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't chase girls. But I was able to accompany him in any song he wrote. I had a good ear, and I could see the chord changes coming. So he let me tag along after him, and he taught me how to ride freights and how to sing in bars.
Man, that was a different time, huh?
Yeah. He said, Pete, put your banjo on your back and go in and sip a nickel beer. Buy a nickel beer and sip it as slow as you can. Don't be too eager. If somebody says, kid, you can play that thing, I say, maybe a little, but keep on sipping your beer. Sooner or later, somebody say, kid, I got a quarter for you if you pick us a tune.
Yeah.
Now you swing it around and play your best song. You get a quarter or more.
And then they want more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that advice, I was able to get out to Butte, Montana, and down to Florida, and explore the southern mountains from Kentucky to Alabama. And when I came back, I was a lot better banjo picker and singer.
Wow. What would have bless you. Your fondest memory of your adventures. Anything in particular stand out?
Nothing particular, except I learned what segregation and Jim Crow was all about.
Right.
And I came to the conclusion that the most important single job for America to do was to learn how to live with people you don't agree with. You learn how to treat people fairly, even if you disapprove of their lifestyle. And sooner or later, this human race may survive.
Hear, hear. Sounds like sound words to live by to me. You know, a number of years later, of course, then you teamed up with Arlo.
Well, Arlo and I get along, even though I'm much older, and he is absolutely an astonishing performer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Woody was a writer. Every day he'd write new songs, then restlessly go on to write more. Arlo will take a good song and he'll hone it down until it's just going perfectly. He knows exactly where to pause, where to speed up, where to add something. He's one of the best performers I've ever met or seen in my life. And I think he'll keep on going into his 90s.
I think so. There was a recent live release by him live in Sydney, and you know, I was tickled at how great the performance was, but I don't know why I was surprised, because it hasn't been that long since I've seen him, and he was amazing when I saw him recently.
Yeah.
The two of you, when I last saw the two of you, and that was a very special time. Was it what they called Arlo's Indian River Festival down here in Vero Beach, Florida? And the two of you shared the stage for the evening, and that was a very special day.
That was a long time ago. That was like 20 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, just shy of 20 years. You're correct. Yep. Let's see. I've got a few things here that, if you don't mind me touching on.
Okay.
I was doing a little investigating, and I came across some facts about Rainbow Quest.
Way back in 1964, 65, we got a chance to do some television. Up to that time, I'd been blacklisted and not gotten any television work. One or two little shows. I was once on Playboy's Penthouse Party.
Yeah.
My family's kidded me about that ever since. All those bosomy girls. But I think that we experimented with TV. We ran out of money and only could do 39 shows, but nobody ever charged us any money. Johnny Cash was on it, wouldn't take any pay. And Ralph Carter and his family, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. Leadbelly was dead, but we put on the only movies made of Leadbelly.
Wow.
And we had people singing his songs.
Nice.
Woody was in the hospital. He only had a couple more years to live. But his songs were there. And I now am convinced that music may be one of the things that will save the human race, because it can leap barriers of politics, it can leap barriers of religion, and all sorts of barriers between human beings. There's an Irish fellow, a wonderful singer, Tommy Sands, and he's bringing Ireland together with music.
Yes.
He got the Catholics and the Protestants singing together.
That's right. This Rainbow Quest show, are there any surviving tapes? Is there any chance that might ever make it onto a DVD or something?
As a matter of fact, some of them are on sale right now as DVDs.
Really?
If you look on the web somewhere, you can probably find them.
I will. I'll be doing that.
Good.
Recently, Bruce Springsteen put out a record with your name in the title.
Well, he didn't know who I was, but somebody sent him some of my records and asked if he would sing one or two of the songs.
Yeah. And
one of his daughters, I think a 10-year-old, said, "Hey, that sounds like fun." And his ears pricked up. Here, this old lefty, it sounded like fun.
Yeah. And it is.
He ended up putting out a whole CD of my songs.
That's a wonderful disc too. Did he come to you for any input on that, or?
Well, no, it was a surprise to me.
Oh.
I would have suggested he not use my name. I don't really want to get too much publicity. I can't handle the mail that comes in. My poor wife. Most men tie their wives to a sink, but my wife's been tied to a table full of paper.
Oh, God bless her. And then I know there is one that you did have input on a few years back, and that was Roger McGuinn's Folk Den project.
Well, Roger is a fantastic musician. If it hadn't been for him, that song, Turn, 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 might never have been heard of.
Yeah.
But he improved it in little ways here and there. Same way with Peter, Paul, and Mary. They're
right.
Old friends. They took Where Have All the Flowers Gone, and If I Had a Hammer, and by the time they got through with it, those became well-known songs.
Yes. Well, I was going to get to Where Have All the Flowers Gone, because that's my favorite right there, and that was a favorite years before I even had an idea of what you were singing about. But the Folk Den project, I started following that when he first started posting songs on the internet as an archive. And then when he put this CD out and I saw that he was joined by all these wonderful artists, including yourself, I think you're included on at least 3 tracks, if I'm not mistaken. That was a beautiful thing. And I wondered if you had known, do you and Roger have a history, or did he just recently approach you on that?
I just knew of him.
Yeah.
I knew of the Byrds, and then later on I saw him singing solo. And then we were on a radio program together once, and I got to know him better.
Yeah, he did a show a couple years back with down here in South Florida with Richie Havens and Janice Ian and Judy Collins, and I'm telling you, that was a very special evening there.
Hey, give him more attention to Janice Ian, because she has accomplished something which very few women do. It's the exception that proves the rule, that learns how to age gracefully. Well, Janice didn't just age gracefully, she grew and learned, and now is doing tremendous things as a mature woman. And I think she's going to be world famous eventually, because she's showing women all around the world, okay, your youth and beauty have gone, men are no longer ogling your breasts, but saving this world is a job that you can do when the men are lousing things up.
Yes, you're right. Hey, I don't know how much more time you can spend with me, but I did want to touch on another subject here, if you don't mind, that I know is dear to your heart, and that's the Clearwater organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's an interesting thing, because it was almost by accident that it got started. A friend of mine, by accident, I learned how to sail at age 40, I guess it was. No, a little older than that. That was just about it. And then a friend of mine loaned me a book about the commercial sailboats that sailed up and down the Hudson 200 years ago or 300 years ago. The word sloop was a Dutch word. And in those old days, if you wanted to go from New York to Albany, you sailed. Except when there was so much ice you couldn't get through in the wintertime. Now the world is warming up. We haven't seen ice in 10 years on the Hudson.
Wow.
Don't need ice cutters. 20 years. We haven't needed ice cutters.
Wow.
But anyway, I wrote a letter to a friend. Wouldn't it be great to build a replica of one of those boats? They built a replica of the Mayflower. Why don't we build a replica of a Hudson River sloop and sail it up and down the river? A life-size replica, 100 feet tall, 100 feet long. You know, the old sloops carried lumber, bricks. 19th century New York was built with Hudson River bricks hauled on boats like the Clearwater. Well, when we finally got the boat built, big arguments. The chairman of the organization resigned because I was singing songs against the Vietnam War. He says, as long as Seeger has anything to do with this project, we'll never get anywhere, because Seeger doesn't know how to work with the establishment. Actually, the man is a very good friend of mine now. He became mayor of Newburgh, and he learned the establishment never does anything unless the people push.
Hello. Yeah.
Anyway, there were big arguments, and I resigned from being on the chairman of the board. I guess he was the vice president who resigned. And we kept struggling on and learned as we went how to run an organization, how to pay the bills. And then the big discovery was learning how to teach on deck. Instead of one person getting up and talk, they divide all the kids who are sailing into groups of about 10. 5 groups 10 will go to the starboard side and learn to put a net in and catch some fish. 10 go to the port side, and they look through a microscope, and they say, gee, what's those wiggly things? And the volunteer crew person, who was my 12-year-old granddaughter a few years ago, says, well, that's called plankton. Plankton is for fish what grass is for cows. 10 go to the tiller. And the captain says, push that stick to starboard. That means over there. Now push it to port. That means over here. Now hold her amidships. And the kid says, we're steering the boat. And then 10 go below and learn how the captain depends on the charts to tell him where the rocks are and so on, and can use modern things like radar to talk to and other communication. Anyway, the kids go back to school 3 hours later, having learned a little science,
right,
a little singing, a few jokes, and in the deepest sense of the word, a little politics too.
Right. And so out of the boat grew the organization to help save the Hudson River?
Well, we've over the last 37 years, it'll be 38 years this summer, the boat has taken 500,000 kids out.
Wow.
50 at a time. And we've encouraged other people around the country. There are 10 or 11 other boats. There's 2 big boats in Lake Michigan, a great big schooner in Puget Sound, a schooner in Delaware, and 2 in Chesapeake Bay, 1 down in Florida, 3 up the New England coast, and they all use the Clearwater system of teaching.
Cool. Very nice. Friends of ours were up there for the Clearwater Festival this past summer, and they wanted me to pass their best wishes on to you. That was Bill and Eli. They gave you a CD of Will McLean music.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
well, the Clearwater Festival is always the middle of June.
Yes.
And it's the 3rd Saturday in June. It's usually Father's Day weekend, but not always, because Father's Day weekend is always the 3rd Sunday in June.
Right. So I don't believe there's a regular Pete Seeger website on the internet, but there is one for the Clearwater. Am I correct? Are you familiar with that?
Yes, there's all sorts of things, but I don't know how to use a computer, and
That's
I can't
okay.
really answer the question.
I'll tell people where to go and where to look for that stuff. I know we've run over here, and I want to tell you that you are a true gentleman, and I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me today and talk about Woody and Arlo and yourself and the Clearwater. And
well, thanks to you and thanks to radio. Do you know, hey, I learn some things all the time. It was Herbert Hoover who in 1927 said it's unthinkable that the American airwaves should be controlled by advertising.
Hello. Yeah. There was something else that I read a quote last night. Was this your quote? Do you recall that it said that technology will save us if it doesn't kill us first?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep, that rings true.
Yeah.
Well, listen, again, I appreciate. Let me add one real quick one here. If they took a time capsule to be opened in 200 years and put one of your songs in it, which song would you want in there?
I guess Where Have All the Flowers Gone?
Thank you for that one. That's the one that I love too. And again, I appreciate your time today. Please give my love to your family.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you out there someday soon.
You keep on. I'll see you.
Thank you, Peter. Have a great day. Ah, how nice was that? Pete Seeger right there on the telephone live for you folks. What a gentleman. Stick around. In just a short time, we are going to be chatting with Arlo Guthrie.
The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. Now is the time for a child to be born.